Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Detour Live. We've got a lot to talk about. Stage 2 done and dusted. We've got the traditional sprint stage for stage 3. There's going to be a big build-up. Will it be the Manx missile or the pocket rocket? But there's plenty to unpack. I'm your host, Dan Jones, as always, joined by four-time national Aussie Road title champion Johnny Tyrone and the voice of cycling, Phil Liggett. Now, before we get to the bikes, Phil, Iffy, your mate Vaz, had some good ideas before we talk about the Kareka Foundation.
Yes, he said you've got to get a photo of Tandy, the Rhino, and there you are. Well done, Dan. That was they almost died. You know, the poachers. You can see some of the damage they did, and they've managed to save Tandy. So you can tell us the story better than me, Phil.
Well, seeing Tandy, I just choke up, John, because she's an old lady now, but she was hit by the poachers who went for the horn, of course. They never kill the animal before they start hacking the horn off their head. This is the tragedy. And they chopped half the face off Tandy. As you can see the scars there where the horn was. But the vets got there in time. She was dying in a pool of blood, and they pulled her back to life. This is some years ago, and this is more recent times. Tandy has since had 3 calves, and the calves themselves have matured. And I'm not sure the count. I'm losing count. She's getting so many grandchildren now, but I think she's had at least 2 extra ones. And she is on Kareka. That's where she lives, in the wild, on Kareka. And so, and this is why we're doing the donations, to help the vets to do the job properly, because taking a horn off an animal like a rhino costs an awful lot of money, approximately $5,000 or $6,000 per animal, because helicopters are involved. It's not just the vet, there's the nurse, there's the guards. And so once the animal is down, you've got only 20 minutes. And the minute that dog goes in, before this animal is up and in action again, and she'll go for you. So they've got to, as soon as she falls, they have to have enough men there to roll her in position. She can weigh a couple of ton, don't forget. Quickly with a chainsaw, take the horn off. She doesn't feel a thing. Same as cutting your fingernails, no different. And then the vet will shout. He'll have his watch running. He'll say, right, everybody, out the way, in the cars. And then they watch her stand up, and off she went. So that's how they do it.
And that's the only way you can keep the poachers away, by taking their horns off. It's the only way. Yep.
We haven't lost an animal for a year now because there's no value in the animal, only the horn. There's no value in the horn if the truth was known. But
Well, I had a look at the donation section, and it's starting to rise. Like, we need to get to that 35 grand mark, but there's some donations obviously coming in, Phil. It's ticking along.
I'm so impressed with you, Dan. I really am. Because you can see that it went up overnight from 11,747 to 12,497. Somebody in the United States donated, I know his name, but I'm not going to embarrass him, $750. And all I have to do is ring his wife and wish her happy anniversary. They've been married 25 years next month. And so I'm going to surprise her, ringing her from the Tour de France, and wish her happy anniversary. She's been on the tour too. So.
And that website, for the people listening to the audio version, it's kariega.co.za/Peloton. Click on the donate button. Fantastic work the foundation's doing, Phil. And hopefully by the end of the tour, we're up around the 35K mark. Now, back to the race itself. Geez, you would have been impressed with Van der Poel, his performance, mate.
Well, I'll tell you, Mathieu Van der Poel lived up to the day. It's his first Tour de France, of course, but he's no stranger to winning big races, as we know. But this was special to him. He points to the sky. He's remembering his grandfather, the famous Raymond Poulidor. They call him Poupou. In my early tours in 73, 74, 75, they were the last years of Raymond Poulidor as a rider. And this man was admired by everybody. They ignored all the stars, but the people just wanted to touch Raymond Poulidor. And he was so proud of his grandson, and because Adrie Van der Poel, Mathieu's dad, he married Raymond Poulidor's daughter, and the rest is history. So the French and the Dutch combined there. And this kid is special, I'll tell you. He's special.
Well, he was quite emotional after the finish. We've got a bit of that reaction after he won the stage.
So much happening, I suppose, in your mind right now. That's the stage victory and the symbolic. The symbolic. You're going to be yellow jersey, Mathieu.
I have no words. Really, I don't know what to say.
You won a stage on the Tour de France. Can you talk to us about the way you won it? Because you went to go get those bonus seconds at the top of the first climb. You went to get the victory as well. I mean, you wanted this one so much.
Yeah, for sure. I gambled a little bit and I played everything I got the first time already because I knew I needed the bonus seconds if I wanted a jersey, and it was also my last chance to get the yellow jersey. So it's incredible.
Who were you thinking of when you crossed the line?
Yeah, my granddad, of course.
How good sport. How good cycling.
First time I've seen that, Dan, and I'd left the studio before that interview came up. Adri, his father, wore the yellow jersey in the Tour and was a great rival with Sean Kelly too. But Adri was a real friend of the English speakers, and he was a cyclocross rider. We used to laugh at all his silver medals in World Cyclocross Championship, none of them gold. And his son goes out. I think he's got 4 world titles under his belt. It's unbelievable in the cyclocross. And Adri plays low key. You never see him around, but the guy is really a genuine guy. And sadly, Poel died 2 years ago, and hasn't seen what would have been one of the greatest moments of his life. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. What I really liked is when I read an interview that the Tour de France wasn't his preference. You know, he wanted to build up to the Olympics, but he said, you know what? The sponsors pay me the money. They want me to go. They support me with my cyclocross and all the other activities I do. And, you know, I owe it to them. It's such a good attitude. And you can just hear, you know, in his post-race interviews and that he's a rider that you really want to see win. You know, it's fantastic.
No, it's wonderful. And we're only 2 days into the Tour. And we've had more stories, and we're getting 3 weeks some years. It's unbelievable. It's just an amazing Tour de France. And people have said to me, this is, I have to keep thinking, it's my 49th Tour de France. And people, normal people that I go out drinking with, well, I don't drink, of course, but they're always saying to me, why do you keep going on the same event every year? What's the attraction? And the answer is, because, well, it helps. At my age, who needs money? But at the end of the day, it makes me say, you never see the same event twice. I've done 49 tours. There's always new stories, because it's not just the riders of this great race. It's the people around the race. Poel, by the way, used to travel on the race right up until the year he passed away. He had his own car with his big picture on the car, and the crowd just screamed at him. And he was into his 80s. Absolutely unbelievable. His white hair. And Poel did like a game of cards, and he often played the cards with Jacques Anquetil, his great rival on the bike, because it prevented Poel from ever wearing the yellow jersey, of course, in the Tour de France.
Yes, I thought it was amazing that he was the ambassador for the yellow jersey, and he'd never worn it. So it was wonderful.
I did read a story once, and I've never actually proved it, but the story was in a factual book, that he did win a prologue. Well, he thought he won a prologue time trial, but he'd gone back to the hotel because he didn't think it was a good enough time. And all of a sudden, they had to go and get him from the hotel and give him a yellow jersey. But then they miscalculated his time, and in fact, he hadn't won the prologue time trial. They took it back. So he got his hands on it for a few seconds only. But you're right.
I haven't heard that story. That's amazing.
No, I only read it once, and I cannot find where I read it. But never wore the yellow jersey.
Now, I was just saying to Whitey before, I raced against Poo in a couple of races in 1976, which was his second. I think he finished early in 77. But I remember he was being introduced to the crowd, and the crowd was just going absolutely berserk, you know, because he'd only just, I think that year or the year before, finished third in the Tour de France at 40 years of age. So he was still a superstar right at the end of his career.
My one image, John, of Raymond was, I think it was 74. I was coming to the start line. In those days, they didn't have a wonderful start area like they have now. The riders went to a little caravan and grabbed a grapefruit, and that was the food for the day. And then they would sign on, not to a fanfare, and just wait for the start. There was no tour villas like there is now, where they all sit around and chat and you can go to them. So I noticed Raymond Poel arrive on his bike. All the crowd are chanting, "Poo, poo, poo, poo." And he wasn't the rider who's going to win the Tour. Then he goes in a little area, and a park bench, literally a park bench that was still in the square, and it would still be there when the race had left. He sat under this tree on a park bench. The crowd were barriered back, and this old lady in black almost fell over the barriers. She just reached out to try and touch his arm. That's how he was revered.
Yeah.
They wouldn't do that to Anquetil. Anquetil was a sort of high gentry guy that was a bit too posh. This was a man of the fields. He came from the Limousin. He was a peasant farmer, and he was making a poor man, and his caricature, his image, all the drawings on the magazines and the cartoons were of his face. It was very special.
Now, we're talking about likability with riders. Now, one guy on a bit of the flip side, and Scotty McGrory sent through on WhatsApp a video, and it was Lance Armstrong talking on his podcast about the reaction post-race. We found it quite amusing.
Vanderpool crossed the line. He often falls off his bike after the. I mean, that shows you how. I think that
we've got a technical difficulty, folks.
He often falls off his bike after the. I mean, that shows you how. I think that means he's gone very hard, but he's on the ground and getting emotional. And my little guy, who's 12, said, "Dad, is this?" He didn't see me race back in the day. He says, "Is this what you used to do?" And I said, "No, in fact, I never did that." And then next thing you know, Alaphilippe shows the class move in the yellow jersey, comes over and congratulates him and rides off. And I said, "You know what? As a matter of fact, I never did that either."
Yeah, exactly.
That is a pisser.
Now, obviously, the plan for Team Bike Exchange was to have Michael Matthews up there at the pointy end, obviously trying to get the green jersey and potentially even yellow if he had better legs than Alaphilippe, but didn't quite go to plan. And this was Michael Matthews' reaction after the finish on the backstage pass.
Don't really have many words, to be honest. I think after yesterday, I expected some good things today, but I guess yesterday took more out of me than I probably thought it did. So, yeah, just massively disappointed. I think the boys did a great job today, positioning me all day, and yeah, just couldn't finish it off for them, unfortunately. But yeah, like you say, more opportunities.
Obviously, a disappointed Michael Matthews there. We catch up with Matt White later in the podcast. We did a pre-record with an interview, and we talk more about the Team Bike Exchange setup and what their plans are for the rest of the tour. But also another talking point, Phil, was Team Ineos. Geraint Thomas lost a bit of time. Are they on the back foot, do you think, or is it a long way to go to Paris?
No, I think they are on the back foot. Things that they've obviously tried to take control of this race from day one. That whole team has been riding on the front. But when the situations arose, especially on day one, they lost two riders, big time gaps. They tried the same stunt yesterday, and it didn't work out at the finish. So they are trying to impress, but it's not quite working out. Geraint looked as though he was really hurting to stay with that group towards the finishing line yesterday. But, it's a 3-week tour, as they often remind me, and things can change once we get to different types of climbs. But what is most notable is that the two main rivals, Primož Roglič and Pogačar, are snicking seconds. Now, remember, this race was only won by just over 50 seconds last year, and they're nipping all these seconds at every opportunity. So it's going to be an interesting race. They're not out of it. Of course they're not out of it. They're the most clever technicians, the most cleverest technicians you'll ever see. But on the other hand, I think Pogačar is looking so good, and Roglič is up for the fight. So it's going to be a tough one for Ineos for sure. But they do have the team. If you look around, only yesterday I commented on television, the Jumbo-Visma team wasn't really around Roglič. And when he stops behind the race, they don't wait for him. They just let him come back by himself. Why make him lose energy like that? Pogačar doesn't have a great team either, but he's always put in the right place. Did you see yesterday when he was trying to get to the front when the roads were very narrow and the winds were difficult, and his teammate got to the front and had a word with the De Koning boys, saying, "Let my team leader come to the front," because they were blocking him on the back wheel of a teammate. It's a very interesting race, this, I'll tell you. It's boiling up for something big.
What do you reckon,
Yes.
John?
Yeah, look, I was surprised that Thomas actually lost time in the last 1.5K there. He just went split when the big hitters were at the front. He couldn't go with them. So that's a worrying sign. I mean, we're only talking day 2, and we haven't got to any of the big mountains. And the time trial in a couple of days' time will be a ripper. And G is a specialist in that. But at the moment, Carapaz is going the best of the Ineos team, but he's going to lose, a minute at least in the time trial in a couple of days' time on Pogačar and Roglic. So, it is interesting. As you say, I think Jumbo-Visma is very strong. They've got a good team. But UAE are definitely not as strong. So, but at the moment, the Slovenians are looking the strongest.
Yeah, they absolutely are. The time trial, you're right, it's coming up on Wednesday, and that's a flattish time trial. And so it doesn't suit Richard Carapaz. All my American co-commentators, they're backing Carapaz to win the Tour. And certainly don't think that Geraint will match him. But you're right, 58 kilometres of time trials is not going to favour Carapaz.
No.
It may not favour Pogačar either, because they're flatter roads this time. But we'll see. We'll see on Wednesday. Thomas has got to fight his way back in with a good ride in the time trial.
Yep.
I'll scroll through some of the viewer comments. I think they're getting excited for the sprint, Phil. Chris Blockley, who's dialing in from Ireland, says, Tom has finally come to see who opens the accounts first, the Brits or the Aussies. We can talk about that in a sec. Wendy Superfan says, hi, Dan, John, Phil, back for another great day of cycling chat. She also wants to give a plug to the Shepparton Cycling Club. They're having their inaugural Fruits of the Valley cyclocross event on Saturday, 10th of July. No worries, Wendy. Matthew says, hi, boys. So good to see a sports person openly showing real emotions. That's what makes great viewing. We had a few comments about the rhinos. Chris again says, it's amazing how well these animals can thrive when humans are not around. Tony says, MVP, the stars lined up. And then we've got a few more here about the crowds and the virus. I can't believe France won't have any virus restrictions soon. It's hard to believe that when Sydney is in lockdown. Geez, don't get us started on that sort of chat. No. And then Josh says, it's great to see crowds back at major sporting events. And then we've got Jack says, I want to say Ewan for the win, but don't want to jinx it. Let's talk about the sprint, fellas. And as we've been winding up, Phil, NBC must be licking their lips in case Cavendish can complete that fairytale comeback. They'll have all the pre-roll ready to go. What do you think is going to happen today?
Well, if I have the chance that we have a competition on TV, but we do it in special order, if I'm first up, I'll go for Cav. Maybe the others won't. There's no doubt in my mind that Caleb Ewan is the fastest finisher in this race. And he's got the form, but like everything in these sprints, you've got to get in the right place at the right time. And sometimes he gets outmaneuvered. And that's what they've got to look for, is to push him out of the way somehow. Not literally, of course. But I think Caleb's the man to beat, no question about it. But I'd love Cav to win. On an emotional viewpoint, I'd love Cav to win. He's not been in the Tour since 2018. He's been controversially left out of the 2 tours that followed. And this time, as we all know, he's been controversially put back in the Tour to replace Sam Bennett. He's got his chance. I see him laughing in the peloton. Cav doesn't normally laugh. He takes a great He's laughing in the peloton. That sprint he did at the green jersey points mark, when Morkov led him out, it was like a dress rehearsal. And then Cav thanked and smiled. I thought, wow, this is a different Cav here, because it's almost certainly his last Tour de France. He's not going to win 5 stages to give him the record outright. But if he won a stage, what a result that would be. And I hope it's today. We've never been to Pontivy for a stage finish ever before. We've been to Lorient many times. And worth remembering, by the way, when we started from Lorient in 1956, a breakaway got 20 minutes on the field that day. And there was a guy in that breakaway called Roger Walkowiak. The most surprised man. He was a Polish immigrant and a miner up in the north of France. And he went on to win the Tour de France. And that was really the last surprise winner of the Tour back in 56. You never know.
What do you think, John?
I think we've got 8 flat stages. I'll be happy if Caleb wins 7 of them, and we'll give 1 to Cav. How's that?
I can't wait. I can't wait for the Brits to get 1 up against the Aussies. Oh boy, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, today's stage is actually quite a ripper. We're just going through it before we're talking with Waddy. That's a pretty gnarly descent, and it will be action aplenty. So it will suit the Calebs and Cavs, who are great bike handlers, but it might be hard to get the trains really organised. There's no doubt that the Caleb has got a very good train going. They're really they're just here for him. But hey, Cav's train's not too bad either. Probably the best lead out man in the game at the moment with Morkov, and so it's going to be wonderful to watch.
Yeah, it is, and the roads, all the Brittany roads, and we're still in Brittany, by the way, all day today. It's a fabulous cycling area, but for a Tour de France, the roads are narrow and very, very undulating. Nasty little climbs too. I think this is definitely a sprinter stage. It's logged down as the first real sprinter stage of the Tour.
Yeah, I think, Cav, the effect of the Wolfpack getting the yellow jersey early on, he's got nothing to lose. They're going to be confident, and he's still got the top end speed, just not to hold it for 250, 300 meters. They'll drop him off at 150 to go. I'd love to see Caleb win, and he's obviously the fastest man in the race, but it's going to come down to the trains. And I just think traditionally Caleb's shown that it could take him 3, 4, 5 stages once the sprints get into it. But I think they're going to be up and about the Wolfpack, and I think it's going to happen. But wait and see. The only thing that's going to cost Caleb is if the train can't drop him off in the right spot, and if he's having to scramble. And he's traditionally, if he doesn't work his way, he'll just throw the hands in the air, and that'll be it. But
the other thing in his favour is the Lotto Soudal team is here for one man. They've got no winner of Tour de France. It is a totally dedicated team, which of course is why Caleb went there and had to leave Bike Exchange. It wasn't called Bike Exchange in the old days, and that's why he had to move to Lotto to get his crack at the Tour de France. And this is his team, and these boys only are living to make him win a stage. So we'll see. He's got the best.
Before we let you go, Phil, Spectator Gate, they're on the hunt. They're using Facebook now, I hear. The German police are wanting answers, and they're talking, could be €1,500 fine. They've gone MIA. And then they've said, in this case, according to Article 2220 of the Penal Code, the Spectator would risk a maximum penalty of 1 year imprisonment, as well as a €15,000 fine. That's from the KIP, if they can press further charges or whatever. But, they've gone MIA.
Even I, can you believe this? Even I'm getting sent photographs of this woman and how she just folded the placard up and then continued to watch the race go past with amazement on her face. But she put the plaque under her arm and folded it up so nobody would see it. And people are sending me the photographs saying, well, there she is, go and get her. Well, I'm really not involved.
It's Dr. Phil, not Detective Phil. But it's been fantastic to have you on the show again. You're a busy man, Phil, and obviously it's going to be a massive day for NBC if Cav can salute, mate. It's going to be hours upon hours of retrospective documentary footage to sift through and the right strings. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, we're going to see a great race today, but the Tour is the Tour, and looking forward to it again. It's a long time commentating, 4.5, 5 hours. There'll be a break today early on, of course, but I guess they'll bring it back. You never know.
I'm sure they will. And we should just give another little, there we go.
Let's get to 35. Come on.
Yes. Kareka.
Kareka are pulling the flags up all over the beautiful range they live on because they thank everybody so much. Yeah.
Yep, it's a great cause. Get behind it. Thanks again, Phil. We'll check in again tomorrow, and good luck with the call today, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. See you tomorrow. All the best.
Good on you, Phil. Take it easy.
See you, mate.
Yeah.
Phil Liggett, the voice of cycling, absolute legend. Now, remember the best fan question for the week, John, will win a prize from Let's Go Motorhomes. We've had a couple of good questions. You don't have to read your script out because we'll show the video this time, but just give us a quick spill about the competition, Johnny.
Yes, well, Let's Go Motorhomes have kindly offered $500 to the best question for the week. So that's three prizes over the length of the Tour de France. So you've got the job of putting them all together, sending them to Phil Liggett, and Phil's going to select the best question for the week, for each week of the tour.
And we can be swayed if you can prove that you've donated to the foundation. We can be swayed. We are coming up with separate little competition. I'm going to talk with the sponsors. I've started the situation. We're going to have a special little prize for whoever donates the most to the Kaleka Foundation. Yep. So we can't be bribed. All right, we'll take that off the table. Anyway, here's a quick word from our great mates at Let's Go Motorhomes and Bike Exchange.
We all love an open road, and often they're easier to find during quieter times of the year. In a Let's Go motorhome or camper van, you can road trip in comfort and style any time of the year. When the roads are quiet, you can get where you want quicker and easier without jostling for position. Chances are your destination won't be as busy too, which means you'll enjoy your travelling adventure even more. Plus, if you book a Let's Go motorhome or camper van in the off-season, you pay less, meaning you can travel longer. There's a type of motorhome or camper van for everyone, so you won't have to compromise on what you want. The whole range has the things you need to help create the perfect road trip experience, including heating and cooling, keeping you comfortable on the road all the time. Whether there's 2 or 6 of you, there's a motorhome for everyone. And in a Let's Go motorhome, your journey can be just as fun as the destination you want to reach. The open road is calling. Check out some of our great offers online today and start planning your next road trip. Rain, hail, or shine.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike. 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match, but not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Thanks again to our great mates at Let's Go and Bike Exchange. And speaking of Bike Exchange, Iffy, we caught up with Team Bike Exchange head DS Matt White early today, and here's the interview. Well, it didn't quite go to plan yesterday. What were your takeaways from the stage, mate?
Yeah, another pretty nervous sort of day yesterday. We in and out of showers, and just that first week of the Tour de France was, it was nervous. Not as obviously as eventful as the day before, thank God. But the last, when we hit on the final circuit yesterday, the Mer de Bretagne, it went up the first time really, really fast, and the group was very selective immediately. And then by the time we hit the last lap, and it was just a little bit too hard for Michael yesterday, and he paid for it, the effort out to get over the first time, and then just didn't have the legs to go up the Mer de Bretagne in the final.
Yeah, we watched his interview afterwards, and he just seemed absolutely gutted. I felt for him, but hey, there's a long way in this tour to go, and there's a lot more for him to chase. Yeah,
definitely. Today's a pretty tricky final as well. So it's a rough 183k stage, and it's a tricky one because you're descending back pretty much from 7 or 8k to the finish, down to 2k to go. So it is expected to be wet from the start today. Again, the weather has been a bit up and down, weather forecast, but we're supposed to be all 50% chance of rain for the day, and a little bit of side wind, a little bit of tailwind towards the finish, and then that you'll be barreling down that last little descent straight onto 2K to go. So which will make it still very nervous. There's still a lot of guys, obviously the GC guys, that trying to stay out of trouble. It's the first proper sprint day today, and it will be an exciting final.
Just on the final today, obviously there's going to be a lot of hype around Cavendish, Caleb, and all the sort of traditional flat sprinters. What are you expecting from some of the other teams?
Oh, just the GC, the key GC teams. It'll be a big fight to get their leader into position there at 7K to go, and then or to the line. But where you're going to be at 7K to go, you're probably going to be pretty close to that at the finish, and it'll be nervous because there's potential for crosswinds in the rain and tailwinds. So again, it'll be on the pedals all day, but it'll be over quick, good 4.5 hours, and. But I think today the big favourite today is probably Caleb Ewan.
I was just going to say, we did a bit of a preview of all the stages on the first step, and there was so many. They're not doing many hilltop finishes, and they're sort of descending down into other villages. Is that because of COVID and the logistics side of things? Like traditionally, it's hard to set things up on the hilltops. Have they given any explanation as to the course design this year?
No, they haven't. And from what I've seen so far in the first couple of days, mate, it is Tour de France as usual. The crowds have been incredible, and I think the start and finish areas are a little bit more controlled than previously. It's obviously the same as last year, so the fans aren't getting close to the buses at the start of the finish area, which they should probably keep actually. But during the stage, it's Tour de France as it was 2 years ago. Massive crowds. I know we're in Brittany, which is a bit of a heartland of French cycling, but people. I said it before the tour started. People have been locked down here, haven't been able to go to see live sporting events for more than a year, and it's summer holidays. People haven't been able to go on their holidays for more than a year, and I think we're going to see some really big crowds right throughout this month.
Now, the other day when you spoke about the different riders and their aims and roles, you mentioned that Esteban definitely not going for GC, and that you wouldn't be surprised to see him dropping back and losing some time very shortly. But he's going so well. I mean, he's only 26 seconds down. You might find it hard to actually just let that go.
Oh, I think the time trial will probably have a fair say in that in 2 days' time. Yeah, it's a 30k dead flat TT, but no, he's moving well, which is good because he's going to need to win a mountain stage here. But he's come to the tour in good shape, and Simon will lose more time today. Won't get involved in any of the shenanigans in the last hour there, and but yeah, he's in a good place. And Lucas lost a little bit of time yesterday. He's come in. I think he's just struggled a little bit with the intensity coming in the first couple of days, but I'm really sure that he's going to find his groove over the next couple of days. And it'd be, you don't like losing time here and there, but over the 90 hours of racing that we've got, it shouldn't matter too much.
Yeah, look, he's only a minute 16 down, and he's in, still up the pointy end. So, as you say, we haven't got to a really a mountain stage yet. So, a long way to go.
Yeah, the first mountain stage is day 8, so it's all about getting through as good as possible in these first couple of days. Settle into a bit of a groove, get a decent TT under the belt, and then the fun starts for the climbers on stage 8.
Is that the biggest thing for Lucas, that development side of things, particularly, being the leader in a 3-week Grand Tour and taking all those learnings, to really build a career over the next sort of 2, 3, 4 years? Yeah,
it's as you know, Jonesy, the tour is a very different beast to any of the other Grand Tours. The especially on the flat, the level of stress, and if you look at some of those finals, guys are in position, or teams are in position, sometimes 70k from the finish. The roads are blocked, and there's groups of teams have got either side of the road. Even our guys did a great job yesterday. Our engine room guys, Chris Jules Jensen and Luke Durbridge, did a really good job looking after Michael and Lucas for a big chunk of the day. And that's hard work for those big guys. They're just it was a lot of headwind yesterday, but just to mitigate risk, to keep your key guys out of trouble, it's got to be done, because otherwise, you can sit down the back, and at the end of the day, if something happens, you got no one to blame but yourself. But the problem is that every team's got the same, or most teams have got the same idea now, and it makes for a pretty stressful first week, and that sort of stress and doesn't happen to the same degree at the Vuelta or the Giro.
Now, I was going to ask your opinion on this one. I was absolutely blown away with the ride of Mathieu van der Poel last night. And the effort that he put in to get that 8 seconds on the penultimate lap, I mean, he was right into the red zone, all on to get that 8 seconds. And then to be able to, just a few minutes later, do it again and ride away, you really find riders who can do that.
Yeah, he's a once in a generation athlete, that's for sure. You're talking about a guy who is the world's best cyclocross rider, and we'll find out in about 5 or 6 weeks' time he's the world's best mountain biker. So those sort of efforts for him, that's his bread and butter. He's a very different athlete, and he's only really transitioning. Yeah, he was junior world road champion, so he has got a pedigree on the road as well. But the training and the racing that he does away from road cycling is really what helps him, or what makes him so special on the road. And there's not too many guys. I mean, it's quite hard from television, but he's a big boy too. Like, I don't know how tall he is, but he's a big boy. He'd be closer to 80 kilos than he would 70 kilos, and he'd be 6'1", 6'2". But he's a machine, and it's really exciting for the sport to have a guy like that up and about, because he does bring in fans and attracts a big attraction to our sport, and the way he rides, and he's so unpredictable as well. If you'd said at the start of the day he would take the yellow jersey away from Alaphilippe, not many people would have believed it, but just the way he goes about it, and when he's in, he's all in, and he's got a very exciting style of racing.
I'm going to give away my age here, Whitey, but I actually raced against his dad. My last year over there, 81, was Adrie van der Poel's first year. We were riding with DAF trucks, rode a couple of races with him, got in a break with him one day. And I also raced with his granddad, Poo-Poo. Polydor's last year, 77, I think. I remember racing a couple of races in 76 with Raymond Polydor. So there you go. Covered a whole lot of them, mate.
That's when you reply, "Good on you, John."
There's certainly a good gene pool. He certainly comes from a good gene pool, doesn't he?
It certainly does.
Well, we won't hold you up, mate. It's another big day at the Tour, and obviously you're going to have a crack at the sprint with Bling and have Lucas Mezgets with the lead out. Yeah, we will. Just they'll freelance a little bit today. It's those dead flat sprints are not Bling's forte, but we'll let those guys freestyle a bit, especially in that last 7 or 8 kilometres. And let's hope the boys can stay safe, because this first week of Tour in the wet and the wind, it always dishes up some surprises. So batten down the hatches. Thanks again to Matt White. He's joining us every day for the Detour Live. Where'd you go, John? You nicked off screen. You're cooking chips again.
No, I had to grab out my bread roll out of the oven. Just made my own bread roll, mate.
Yeah, okay. Now we've got some more viewer comments. Andy Matthews says it would be great to see Caleb or even Cav get the win, but what about Arnold Demar and Miles Scottson in his train?
Oh, Arnold Demar is definitely in the mix. We've got some wonderful sprinters here, So it's not we keep talking about like it's only Caleb and Cav, but hey, there's
Merlier,
Tim Merlier, there's probably 8 sprinters. Well, Sonny Colbrelli, he's looking quite strong. I was surprised actually when he attacked last night on top of the hill in the climb. He actually went bang, and then Mathieu van der Poel went over the top of him. But I just thought, why in the hell are you doing that? But anyway, he's got great form.
Now, the Wheel Wizard, a big fan of the show, says, "You're slipping, John. Andrew van der Poel won a Sun Tour."
Yes, I didn't whack that in, but he did win a Sun Tour, but that was long ago. I wasn't racing against him at that stage. But I think I can't remember what year it was, in the late 80s, I think. But yeah, he came out here, won the Sun Tour. So,
and the Will Wizards backed it up and gone whack again. He says, "John, you are dreaming. Caleb Ewan will be lucky to win 2 stages, and Cavendish for the win in Paris. I think the Will Wizard might be a Brit.
I think Will Wizard is dreaming, but hey, that's what we want. We love to see that.
Anyone that sledges John, you're going to be right at the pointy end for the $500. Let's go.
We love it. We love it.
Voucher. Judith Cahill, shout out, Sale represent. She says, what about Jack Hay, given his form so far? Do you think he's a chance to finish on the podium? He has been sensational in his first couple of stages, Johnny.
I think he is definitely a chance for the podium. I was very impressed. His effort on day one right there. Like he was right there. And again, yesterday, he didn't lose any time. He was in that front. I think he finished 10th across the stage yesterday. He's sitting 6th overall. And hey, when we get to the mountains, that's when he's really going to show us his stuff, because he was very impressive in the Dauphiné just a couple of weeks ago. So, yes, big chance for the podium.
Yeah, and Caroline, she's a classic Green Edge fan back in the day. Used to take her massive signs to the Tour de France. She said, it's not over till the fat lady sings, and I haven't even started warming up my vocal cords. Yeah, there's a long way to go. I think you shouldn't be sledging yourself like that, Caroline. Jack Bartle says, Whitey, obviously it was a pre-record, so you can put the Whitey cap on, John. Esteban is staying with GC contenders so far on tough stages where other GC riders have lost time. Is he going to try and stay in GC and see what happens, or the TT's too big a hurdle?
Yeah, I think they are too big a hurdle. And, to be truthful, even if he did everything he could for GC, he could finish top 10. He might have finished 7th, 6th, but then he's not going to be able to go for a stage win. And I think he would be happier not to worry about just a top 10 finish, but win a stage.
Jason Cruz, live from the Maldives, says Jack Haig has a great start at the Tour. Richie on the front yesterday, and he dropped Geraint Thomas. They need to flip responsibilities.
Well, too late now.
If he didn't lose that time and just spewing it, that crash happened. Like if he was right up there at the pointy end. Anyway, doesn't matter. Wow. Sam says, chapeau to Lockie Morton. The bloke just so awesome. I hope he beats the peloton to Paris. We were talking about that on yesterday's show.
Look, fantastic. Fantastic effort.
And Scott McGrory, Scooter. Andre won the Sun Tour in 1988. I bought the Camper Nolo group set off his time trial bike that he rode in that race, putting it on one of my old steel frames from when I was a junior. And I'm tipping he got a good price on that bike because Scotty does not pay retail, Johnny.
No, well, he's quite proud of that fact, isn't he? I just got
yeah. Anything you want to add before we wrap things up, mate?
No. I'd just like to say a quick show is a good show. So we haven't had that many good shows. But no, look, we're up to 42 minutes perfect. And I just want to, I'm so looking forward to tonight. I love those hectic sprint finishes. And today is going to be a hectic sprint finish.
No doubt. Thanks for your support again. Make sure you jump on youtube.com/The Detour Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Tell all your mates about the show. We really appreciate the support. Get on social media. Tell people to check in. 6:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time every night for the Tour de France. We're going to have Phil Liggett, Matt White, and we will get some more special guests throughout the Tour de France and start flashback to some old memories. Johnny, fry up the Detour DeLorean. But the main thing is we're going to have a lot of fun. And, we appreciate all the support. We'll see you again tomorrow night. Go Caleb or Cavendish?
Caleb. Go Caleb.
Take it easy.